Are you ready to explore the exciting tech world like never before? Welcome to Better You, the podcast where we dissect the latest in business, technology, and startup trends, all with a keen focus on growth. So buckle up and get ready to stay ahead of the curve. Let's make you a better you.
Welcome to another episode of Better You. I'm your host Neeraj. Very excited because today I have a very good friend in the studio. Her name is Olga. She's the founder of Search Reduce. Olga and we actually got connected a long time ago, where she was trying to hire talent for one of her customers, and she reached out to me. We had amazing conversation, and I think it's been 5-6 years, and she and I were in touch. Now she's a founder of this company, and I reached out to Olga. I said, Olga, I think we should do this together, because when I'm on the other side, when Olga is trying to hire someone like me, I'm always trying to figure out, hey, what does the life look like for the recruiters? Because recruiters, they talk to so many people. It's an exciting world for them. Good resources, bad resources, negotiating, and then presenting those people like me, to the employer or hiring manager. They are Olga's customer. So personally, I'm very excited about to know that side of the world. And now as technology landscape is changing, AI is there. A lot of people think that recruitment can be automated. Recruiting process can be automated using AI. And I think this is where I want to have a really friendly, open conversation with Olga. Olga, great to have you here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. So the story is that you were my candidate first. You turned down the offer with one of my clients, and then you became a customer, and then with one of the startups. So that's the story.
So Olga, how did you, originally you're from Poland,
Yes.
And just give me some insight. How did you end up here? And your hustling style is amazing, because every time, when I switch jobs or I do something, you always reach out, and I'm sure you're reaching out to hundreds of people. Give me some idea about your background.
Yeah, so I grew up in Poland. I came to United States on internship. That was during college. I always, and it's so funny. Like, one of the friends from high school told me that when we were in high school, and the teacher asked us, like, where do you want to be when you grow up? And I stood up and I said, I am not going to live in Poland, and I'm not going to have a husband in Poland. I don't know. I don't even remember this. It's just sometimes, things happen out of our control, or like maybe, we have the intuition, but we just don't even realize. So I came here on internship. I finished 1-year internship. I was, in college, I studied business, but I wanted to be an HR person when I was in college. But then somebody told me, like, you should be really in sales. I think you will be really good at it. So after my internship, I returned back to Poland. I finished my master's degree, and I ended up working for an agency, a large recruiting agency in Europe. We were recruiting tech guys all over the Europe. I even hired some people for Apple in Ireland. And, technology was always something that I really enjoy, recruiting people for tech roles. Like, technology really comes easily to me to understand, easily enough to know how to match the right talent. And so after that, I worked for this agency for 1 year. And then, when I was here on internship, I met my future husband. So we stayed in touch. And, after like 1.5 years being in Poland, we decided to, that we should get married and I should come back to United States. So that's how it happened. That's how I ended up here. And then I started working for a large agency here in the United States, recruiting IT guys from, pretty much through my whole career. And then after a few years with a large agency, I decided to start my own business. I always knew that the day will come. I always wanted to be a business owner. And, it was just kind of like the timing was like, it was a divine timing, to be honest with you, because I was planning on leaving the agency for probably 2 years prior, but I finally decided to leave in January of 2020. And you remember what happened in 2020? It was a pandemic in March. So then what happened? The company that I was working for, the large agency, they were, we had a new CEO that joined a couple months prior. Of course, he didn't tell us that he was planning on selling the company, but they freaked out because of pandemic and they start closing the offices. They closed my office. They laid off everyone in my office. And I was like, what? And I left 3 months earlier. And then they, then they sold the company to Korn Ferry. So here I am running my company for the last 4 years. And, I've always focused on working with startups since I remember. I help startups from from infrastructure, databases to now AI, because I love technology and I love changing and expanding my portfolio.
Yeah. So now I have actually two questions. I think the company that you worked for, which got acquired or got sold, you were there for almost 13, 14 years, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That is a long time. That's just
Very
amazing.
long time.
Yeah. And so Olga, so you founded your own company during pandemic, correct?
Yes.
Brilliant. Wow. Now, and
yes,
besides...
and this is funny story also. I started recruiting in US in 2008, which was the beginning of the recession. Yeah. And I remember, I didn't think I'm going to survive. I had no experience. I barely spoke English. I didn't speak very good English. They hired me. I don't know why. Sometimes they just saw something in me. And then, I was very successful back in Europe. I love sales. Like I am good at it. And, when they hired me, it was the middle of recession. And I remember when after a few months I made placements and the CEO sent me a note, the CEO of the company, and said to me, like, Olga, if you survive this, you will survive anything. Like, starting your career in the recession was not fun.
So let me put it this way. So 3 things now. You started in 2008 during the financial crisis, and then your company the company that you were working for got sold out during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, you launched your own company. And now the most important thing, the AI, and this is the next part of our episode. Okay, a lot of people I talk to, they're like, oh man, you know what? I don't think we need recruiters. We don't need any help. We have an AI piece. We'll figure it out using some AI agents, some AI technology, automate the whole process. So Olga, what is your experience as you are on the other side? You are on the field calling all these candidates, people like me. What is your experience when it comes to the technology changes?
So the technology changes are, of course, so when I started my recruiting career 15 years ago, it was all about recruiting, large distributed systems guys. Then we transitioned to, hiring database people. I've worked with a lot of database startups. Then, of course, the next level was, building, the analytics and understanding the databases. Now, of course, we are in the space where all these databases are self-sorting, spitting out answers by using, large GPUs. And now we, of course, which called, AI. And now we have large foundation models built by large companies and all the startups that are pretty much building applications on top of those models. So the challenge is that a lot of startups want the talent that, comes from Google and Meta, people that build and train the models. And it's super hard, to recruit those people because why would they leave Google? Like they work from 9 to 5, they are lazy, they get paid, very well. And why would they come come to a startup. So it's extremely challenging. Extremely challenging. I had a call this morning with a client of mine, which is, an LLM startup company, very successful. They are, building like a kind of similar to Copilot type of product. And, they are like, Olga, like the candidates we have in the pipeline right now, they have 8 offers, some of them. That's how challenging it is right now. It's very challenging to find engineering talent.
So, our employers or hiring or your customers, are they still relying on a human, someone like you, to find talent, or do you see a shift where people are saying we do not need recruiting companies and we can just figure out a way to find talent through AI?
Okay, so I don't think we are at that level that AI can find talent. AI systems are great for helping us write great job descriptions, streamline the process, speed up the process. But what's happening, this is from my experience, what's happening, one of the disadvantages of AI is that, yes, there is a lot of automation and efficiency, but, with the efficiency comes kind of like, people are getting too many messages. They are getting too many emails, because we can send 300 emails, one day right now with the AI systems. But what's happening is people are not reading messages on LinkedIn. People are not reading emails. And, I think the response rate on cold emails right now is around 2%. People are not picking up phones. I miss those times where you could call a candidate, with a great opportunity. People are not picking up phones. I think the response rate is like 5%. People get very upset when you call them. So, I mean, honestly, it's going to be, I think, even harder and harder to even get attention of those people.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed the problem. So, like in my sales world, every time when I work with a founder or sales leader, I always tell them that I'm not a huge fan of sending out the emails because we get so much spam. We don't click on those emails in the same way. When we send out those automated emails, we do not click on it. So it's garbage, to be honest with you. That's why you are absolutely correct. The calling is a game changer. But another challenge is now there are so many spam calls. People don't pick up unknown numbers, right? Unknown callers. So that's a huge challenge itself. Yeah. So Olga, I think you covered it really well. You said going from databases to data itself, analytics. Now we are and we also witness a cloud transformation, right? People started coming in. They wanted cloud engineers.
Mm-hmm.
So your conversation with folks from Google, Meta, all this, NVIDIA now, I'm sure, all these big companies, if you don't mind sharing some stories, like what does the conversation look like? Hey, I'm hiring, there's a Series A, Series B company. They're looking for founding engineers, or they're looking for staff engineers or architects and so on. How do you pitch a startup which you don't know too much about, but then you build your own pitch, your own messaging, and then you call someone like me, and now you're trying to explain. And one thing I did notice as I talked to more recruiters, they know about so many companies about their elevator pitch, and now they are pitching those companies to people like me, other candidates. How do you guys speed up? Like, how do you guys learn all this as part of the hiring process?
I mean, of course, if we take on a client, we have to understand, what the client is trying to build. I mean, there are key elements that, like, for example, if I'm hiring AI engineers, let's say, or AI researchers, because we're doing a lot of those, like it's very important, like what's the startup is building. As somebody who is like training models at Google and Meta is not going to go to a company that is just building, applications. I mean, there is so many, little tiny details that you need to know. Is this person, doing fine-tuning models? If this person, is working on, optimization or pre-training, are they building models from scratch or just, optimizing models? So some of those details are very helpful when we try to sell the opportunity to a potential candidate. With the engineers, it's kind of tricky because they are not very good on the phone. Even if I cold call them, they are not gonna tell me the whole goal in life and what they want in a career. They often ask to send the details, and they want to review the details on their own time. And then if it sparks interest, then they will follow up. So that's the challenge with recruiting like pre-sales engineers versus engineers. You have to know the different tactics.
The reason the reason I'm smiling, because I used to be an engineer, then I moved to sales engineering role. Now I'm full-time sales guy. So there is still part of me, the engineering side of part of me, where I do not want to talk too much. I'm like, please continue the conversation because I have something to say, but I don't want to say it, right?
Yes.
So you're absolutely correct. When you have to take the data out, like take the information from this candidate, you have to be creative. And this is where I think, Olga, you have done an amazing job building those personal connections while being professional and, making the other side feel more comfortable. Because one thing which I want to understand from you, the comps, do you get when okay, let's take a step back then. So the way I see it is a 3-step process, or if I crank this three dots, so here is a candidate, then you are in the middle, and then you have an employer, your customer. Your employer reaches out to you and says, hey, Olga, I need this AI engineers, or, whatever the requirement is. During this process, do you ask your customer / the hiring manager / employer, hey, what is the salary range? What does the comp look like? Bonus, equity, and so on. And as a broker, as a middle person, do you negotiate end to end between these two parties, or how the process looks like?
Yes. Of course, we do ask about compensations, but sometimes when I see those posts of people saying, "Oh, you need to disclose the compensation," it's so hard for us to disclose compensation because I've been surprised so many times where the outstanding, like recently we hire a ML engineer, and it was a small startup company. They received Series A in the midst of that, so it wasn't even announced. And his compensation, like base salary, was over like 300,000. And he came from a big company. He came from Meta. Every candidate that goes to startups from a bigger companies, they have to take a pay cut. Like they have to. There is no way a startup will offer, 400, 500,000, base salaries. So they, most of the candidates understand that. Sometimes, if they don't have experience with startups, I have to, I'm very like straightforward with them. Like you have to take a pay cut. Like, you have to understand that. So this candidate, for example, his compensation was so high that honestly, I would have never disclosed this compensation on, in the job description because I had no even idea. The client, first of all, never shared that high number, but this candidate was so great that his compensation negotiations went up to the board approval. So, you never know what will be the final compensation. Of course, we get the ballparks. Some startups pay very well, like they are even willing to go up to like 350,000 for those guys on the base salaries, but some startups are, maybe around 250. So yeah, it's important to understand that, what is the ballpark. Of course, with the equity, the equities are so tricky, especially in early startups, we never know what will be the final equity number. I'm very realistic with candidates. Like, I tell them, hey, this is Series A, this equity is worth almost nothing at this point. But, you have to understand that's not the reason why you're joining a startup.
So what you're saying that you do play a key role in the middle where you want to make sure that you understand your customers need, what they're going to pay for this role, and then somehow you use your emotional intelligence as a leader, and then you communicate back to this candidate in a way where you do not lose this candidate just because of the equity and comp plan. So this is where you play a key role in the middle. Yeah.
Yes, you have to be very upfront at the beginning, because obviously you don't want to, most candidates understand how startups work, some don't, but you don't want to promise them something that, will not be delivered at the end. So I would rather give them a harsh truth at the beginning. And some people, after the initial conversation with me, they just say, I don't think I'm going to leave Apple at this point. I'm going to stay, or things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the most important thing, which I really, really liked about you during our various conversation. You were just very harsh. And sometimes I just thought, man, Olga's very aggressive. But then I understood the ground that you were coming from. Olga, I'm going to actually I want to talk to you about two very interesting topics. It may be a little bit debatable. And the first topic is about gender. As you are in the tech world, men versus women, the diversity piece, are you seeing any changes in the last, let's say, 5-10 years? Something changed where you're saying the employers, they want to hire more women than men, or is balanced approach as part of the whole diversity and inclusion initiative?
Yes. Companies want to hire more women. They are asking us for, sending them more women. Some startups, almost like demand to only send them women candidates because, that's their maybe priority at this point, or maybe, that's harder to get. So they are asking us to do the hard work for them. Some companies nicely ask, they would like to see more women. But yes, I think I am seeing more and more women, especially in the, engineering. Of course, it's not 50%. Hopefully one day, but I am seeing a lot of women. I've worked with a couple of women candidates this year. So yes, it's a nice change. I think a lot of younger people are definitely going into IT and hard engineering roles.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let me ask you this way then. If I, as a hiring manager, I come to you and I say, Olga, stop sending me male candidates. All I want is female candidates. You're trying. And then now you have to prove your ground that, hey, listen, for this particular job, I just can't find any female candidates. Now, this is actually a tricky one, because have you ever asked this question to the hiring manager / employer / your customer? Why do you care? If let's say you have, let me ask you this tricky question then. Let's say you have 3 amazing men candidate who are amazing for the job, and then now you have a 1 woman. How would you present this data back to the employer and make sure that there's no biased opinion based on the gender?
So, I always played in like the, a lot of like in the muscular energy. I do have a lot of muscular energy as a woman. And I've never seen the difference between, and maybe, women are weaker than men, or, they should be playing certain roles. I believe that the best person should be hired for a job, but I also understand why clients want diversity, because it's very healthy for culture. I think we should have diversity. We should have women and men working in the company. It's healthier for for a culture and the company. So I understand if they are, for example, if there is a 30 people company and they have 1 or 2 female, I understand why they want more female. And, like, for example, this one client, we were working early this year and they asked us for more female for both roles. We were hiring solutions architects and the LLMs engineers. And, even though we ended up hiring a female for the solutions architect and a male for, LLM, they were still happy because, they were able to hire one. So I understand. I do not do not argue with them. I'm trying to do my best and find more female. It's harder because there are fewer of us, but I understand
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. Okay. So the second question which I want to ask you on this, your customer gives you the data and says, "Hey, Olga, I want you to go find these candidates." Have you seen, and again, you can choose not to answer, have you seen where you will see that, oh, male candidate is getting more money than a female candidate? Have you ever encountered that incident?
No.
Okay. That's good. I mean, and I'm sure if you see something like that, you will ask the question, then why is it happening? And the reason I'm asking this, because I think there is still an opinion out there that that men get more money than women. I do not know. Look, I have a daughter, and my fiance, she is amazing. Was one of the leaders in one of the very big companies. She manages hundreds of people. So I hear a lot of stories, and some good stories, not bad stories. But then there are some bad stories also that, okay, he is getting more money because the other person is a female and that person is male. And as you said, I just never understood that logic because I always saw my mom as a role model. So women are a role model for me. So I just never understood the difference. But then I think as I talk to more people, I am seeing some difference there based on the gender. Either candidates are getting more money or they're getting hired faster. Yeah.
Yes, I've never seen this either in my professional life because, I'm in the recruiting business, which is so, commission driven. It doesn't matter if you're a female or male. It's all about, your performance. So, in my previous company, I mean, it didn't matter, the sex of the person. Like there was so many women that, were top billers. Honestly, I have never experienced personally in my recruiting business where you have two equal candidates, and because this candidate is a female, is receiving lower compensation. In the line of business that I do, where the engineering talent, and we work with top engineering talent, is so hard to find. I don't think there is a discrepancy. I think female are compensated very well at that in that kind of
Very
role
nice.
and that level.
That's good to know. Yeah. Olga, another thing I wanted to learn from you, as you're in the field, you're making so many calls, reaching out to so many people. Have you noticed anything after the pandemic? Have you noticed that talent is moving out of Bay Area, Silicon Valley, to the other areas when you're looking for AI engineers or LLM engineers and the good talent on the more innovative technologies? Have you seen any changes that it's hard to find those engineers in Bay Area because people moved out? What is your experience on that?
Yes, I think I think there was probably during the pandemic and maybe slightly after the pandemic, there was the time, very short time where we were working remotely, so more people were kind of moving out, and I think probably some people still stayed in those locations, the ones that moved out during the time. But unfortunately, the startups that we are recruiting, they do require being in the office. I am not at this point seeing a lot of positions that allows people to work fully remotely. Because we work with startups. So unfortunately, the talent has to be, usually in the Bay Area. Sometimes companies make exceptions and they will hire remote candidates. But, of course, the LLM engineers, researchers, they concentrate in the big hubs like Bay Area, New York, Seattle, maybe South California, Southern California. So yeah, that's where most of the talent is currently based out.
Okay, and Olga, how's Miami, New York City, East Coast area? Do you find good talent there?
Oh, definitely not for the AI roles. I don't think. I mean, New York has a lot of great talent. There are a lot of startups popping out in New York. So yes, New York. I mean, the good AI talent is where the good universities are. So it's definitely the East Coast, Boston, New York, and the West Coast. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'm not talking to candidates in like Miami, but that's just for this specific roles. I'm sure there is a lot of great talent out there.
Got it. So one thing which I do feel that as you are on the field, you're talking to these innovative companies. Besides AI and LLMs, RAG and bunch of other stuff which is trending. Outside of all this, are you seeing any new technology trend where you suddenly somebody comes to you and say, Olga, I'm looking for a quantum computing engineer or blockchain engineer? Anything like that are you seeing or not yet?
Yes. I mean, the blockchain, of course, quantum computing, of course, but I am trying to, you have to be very niche in recruiting. You can't recruit everybody for everything. So I'm sure there are a lot of startups in a quantum computing, in the hardware, of course, space, in a blockchain. It's just not something that I go after and work with those kind of clients. So I'm not that I'm not an expert in those industries.
So you're saying yes, those requirements they do pop up, but then you just recommend somebody else to start the process because you want to stay focused just on data AI space, right?
Yes, data, AI, backend engineering, infrastructure type of startups, even like databases and anything in that domain.
Awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to switch gears. I want to understand two things from you. One, a bad story while you're talking to a candidate, and a fun story where you can just say, oh my God, actually, I called this person and that was an amazing conversation. Oh my God, I called this person. That was the worst conversation of my life. Tell me something. Like when I go into Uber rides, I ask the Uber drivers all the time, hey, what's your worst story? And they always tell me something exciting.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure there are a lot of like bad stories, but there is something that comes up to my mind because it happened recently. I am very intuitive person and I am very big on reading energy. And I recently had this candidate who there was a startup company in Europe building, I don't know if I should be because they are still in stealth mode. They are building a competing product, competing to a very large ERP company. And this person worked for this large ERP company. So he was skeptical, like how they can even compete with us. And he joined the Zoom call and his energy was so off. I just wanted, honestly, I just wanted to click and leave the call without even saying anything. But I just bite my tongue and I listened to him to the end. Of course, it never worked out. I mean, I knew it. I could read his energy. It was just like a 30 minutes of waste of my time. That was probably one of the interesting stories that happened recently.
Okay. And one of the calls where you got on the call and you are talking to this candidate and you feel that, oh my God, he or she is the best person to hire. Tell us one of those stories. And then how do you filter out? And something which I want to understand, because you do talk to, and I believe you do talk to a lot of people, what does the process look like for you to filter candidates? Now, let's say, to give you more context, let's say there are two people and equal talent, and they're asking for the same salary, same comp plan, no issues on the equity. And how do you go to the hiring manager and present those two candidates in a way that this candidate might be the better solution or better person for this company? How do you evaluate using your instincts, your emotional intelligence, using your recruitment experiences? How do you evaluate those candidates?
Yes, it definitely comes a lot from, sometimes just using your intuition and just having 15 years of, recruitment experience. I'm not always perfect, but what I always hear from clients is that, Olga, you send few candidates, but they are, usually very, very strong candidates. It's a combination of things. It depends what company is looking for. It all depends. Like you can go, like if you're working with the B company, you can go after the A plus candidates because they would never come to a B company. But when you are working with the A company, you need to present A plus candidates. You need to understand what's important to them. For some companies, especially in the AI space, they are looking for top universities. So you need to find those candidates. They are looking for specific background that comes from like specific companies. It's also a combination of soft skills. Sometimes just like reading the energy. Do they, are they friendly? Can they be collaborative in the startup environment? You can ask them questions like, why would they even be interested in startup? Ask them about accomplishments. It's a lot of questions to make that decisive decision if you should send the candidate for a specific role. Interesting, like I just talked to somebody yesterday, a PhD candidate. I had no idea what he was working on before even talking to him, because you can read everything on LinkedIn. And when he sent me his resume, like the two roles that I pitched to him were not a fit for him because his research was in a completely different, in a completely different aspect. So he is making those decisions. Like I know that a person with this, PhD is not going to work for that client. It's just, it comes comes with the experience.
Makes sense. Olga, before we go into the closing of this episode, I want to ask you something important on the resume side. How often do you hear this from the candidates? Hey, I don't have my resume. Go take my LinkedIn and download it. What is your advice for the folks who are really, really serious about a job where they want to get into a company? What is your advice to handle those kind of scenarios where you should be building a resume or you should not be building it and depend on LinkedIn? What is your advice?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Like earlier in my career, I was very kind of skeptical about the candidates that don't have resume and they won't even put the time to build the resumes because, and you have like this thought in your head, like, what if this candidate is just wasting, everybody's time? But I honestly, it happens all the time when candidates don't have resumes and they want to use the LinkedIn, and I'm totally fine with that. Of course, I try to understand if this candidate is really serious about making a move or what they are looking for in the next career, just to make sure that, this is the right opportunity for them. But it happens very often where, candidates just get jobs without even having a resume. So it's very common. It's case by case, but I do share LinkedIn profiles with clients, with candidates that I strongly believe they are a fit and they are serious about, having a discussion with the client.
So you're saying LinkedIn does play a huge role, and it's very important for folks now to keep their LinkedIn up to date.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to your own startup. So Search Reduce. I love the name because Search Reduce. How did you come up with the name?
So I used to, you remember the times of MapReduce, yes?
I do.
So, it's like, when I kind of started Search Reduce, that was 4 years ago, AI wasn't even, a thing. It was mostly like just databases, distributed systems. So, yeah, I mean, that's the area of so it comes from MapReduce.
Brilliant. I love this. Oh my God, you are a nerd. All right. What's next for Search Reduce? It looks like you have a couple of employees and you are a hustler. I see you as one of the badass recruiter out there, always hustling. What's next for Search Reduce? What do you want to do next in Search Reduce? You want to expand the employee base? You want to use more technologies to be more productive? As a leader, as a CEO, as a founder of Search Reduce, where are you heading towards?
Yes, I definitely want to, to build our customer base. I want to serve more startups. I want to, I want to truly build right relationships and hire, right people. Um, I passed a career where, I was excited about, getting a commission or paycheck. I am, truly, the magic happens when we truly, help a candidate, when we help a candidate join a startups and they are just really killing it. They are helping the startup to go to the next level and they are really enjoying the ride. I really, enjoy those placements. So I would like to make more of those. And of course, build my team. I love AI, but, we need to learn how to, I think, use AI. I don't know if it's not working right now so well. But, there are a lot of tools, of course, that are helping streamline the process and speed up the process.
So, Olga, one thing which I wanted to ask you about your personal journey. You came from Poland, and you are hustling through as an immigrant. Give us some insight about your personal. What motivates you to get up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm gonna go help more customers?
What motivates me? It's definitely my son who came to us, 10 months ago after a very long infertility journey and spiritual awakening. He came to us. So that's my number one motivation. My second motivation is, I want to truly make a difference in the world. I know my job doesn't reflect that yet. I believe it will probably change in a way that I might be. I want to, help people. We are helping people. Of course, recruiting is about changing people's lives. And the most exciting times are when we truly match the right candidate with the right opportunity. There is just like a magic, when you know that this is truly meant to be. Not every placement is like this, but, I am welcome more and more of those this year and next year. So yeah, those are, my work is very important for me. And I do, I do like to work and get up in the morning and hustle.
And it is very stressful because you have to talk to people, you have to make calls. And I please do let me know if I'm wrong. I'm sure that 70, 80, 90% is just rejections. No, I'm not interested. Don't call me, or don't do this. And for that, you have to be spiritually awakened enough that you don't take it personally. Your ego is on check. You don't lose temper. You just stay calm and take the rejection and keep moving forward, right? So, Olga, I'm actually a little bit interested, if you don't mind. I went through my own spiritual awakening in 2010 timeframe after a personal loss of my relationship. I'm actually interested, if you don't mind, what was the spiritual awakening for you?
So my spiritual awakening was the infertility journey, which, it was a very long one, but it successfully, ended with arriving of our son last year. And, I am on another spiritual journey this year. Being a mom and running your business is very hard. And, before our son arrives, I loved working. I used to work like 10 hours a day. So I decided, before our son was born, I decided, okay, maybe I will work a little bit less, but then I will remove all the joy from my life, all the things that I love to do, like exercising, meditating, so I can devote this time to taking care of my son. And after a few months of doing this, I was miserable. I just had no joy in life. All my energy was focusing on work and taking care of, of my son. And that was not working. And so, I'm on another journey right now when I want to, run my business with the feminine power. I want to still, be busy. I still want to make money, but I don't want to kill myself in the process. And I think it's very important for a lot of people out there to take the time and just find the things that really you enjoy. So I went back to like meditating every day, and I'm doing so much better right now. But it was the rough couple of months where I just had no joy in life. It's really hard to run a business and raise a little kid.
Yeah, Olga, thank you for sharing that story. Yeah. All right, this is great. Olga, what's the best way to get hold of you? Let's say, so my audience, they are very technical founders, CEOs, early stage startup. And so what's the best way to get hold of you?
Probably on LinkedIn. Just send me a message on LinkedIn or my email. It's olga@searchreduce.com, but probably LinkedIn will be the best way to reach out.
Very nice. Olga, thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure that as you expand your startup and as you start hiring more people, I'm sure you're going to learn more. And we're going to have another episode when you go from 4, 5, 10 people to 20, 30, 50 people. I'm sure you're going to deal with a lot of challenges. And then I will bring you back on my episode or my show where we talk about scaling up startups.
Yes, that would be awesome. Yes. I would love to do that again. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Olga.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Better You. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into today's topic and found some valuable insights to help you on your growth journey. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to leave us a review and share Better You with your friends. Together, let's continue exploring the exciting world of tech and business. Until next time, stay curious, stay innovative, and keep growing.